Hold it like you would hold a woman, Desron said to me, several floors above the streets of Brooklyn. I looked at him quizzically. I'd never had a girlfriend before. I must have been no older than 14 at the time. So I pretended I knew how to hold a woman.
Certainly, the double bass was wider than most women and had a deeper voice. I don't think he noticed anything off about how I stood with it, so we continued. I moved my fingers along the strings, the fine grooves of the metal thrumming with unreleased energy, begging to be let out by a skilled hand and to walk the bustling streets, heading right for the romantic lighting of a jazz bar. These were the dreams of a young man raised on the blue of his namesake, Miles Davis, and the brass of Charles Mingus. I was in 4th grade when I started to play the bass. I'd played cello for a few years before then, but I wanted to play the big instrument I'd seen the older people play. Those basses were towering, and I wanted to be tall enough to play them, maybe even taller than my younger sister. So, when the 4th grade teacher asked me what instrument we wanted to play that year, I puffed out my chest and said, "Can I play the bass?" I played throughout high school, but orchestral music wasn't typically written with bass in the forefront. But when I joined jazz band, I became one of the foundations of the rhythm. Sure, most of the time the audience wouldn't notice me. Hell, sometimes my conductor or jazz director wouldn't either. But they'd certainly miss that certain something if I was gone. Jazz band led me to a paid summer program for teenagers at the Artist Collective in Hartford. I would lug my bass down the faded stairway from a 3rd-floor apartment and heft it into my mom's car. At times, I dreaded going. I had never played as much as I did during that camp. For hours every day, I plucked, the strings biting into my fingers. I formed blisters that would then pop and bleed. I learned to use liquid skin to shield the wounds when my calluses bloomed a sickly yellow. I was surrounded by other people like me, jazz artists of every shape and color. Often, as a mixed kid, I never felt like I belonged anywhere. But there, I didn't feel like the odd one out. I didn't have to prove how black I was or how white I was. And maybe I never did. In the years since high school, I've only touched a bass twice. At my first college, I stumbled upon one in this classroom next to mine. It was an old, decrepit thing that sat cracked and lifeless in the corner of a moldering music studio. When I tried to play it, sadness filled my chest. This bass was dead. When I transferred to UConn, they had a music building, but I never went in. I was on the highway home from stores when I felt an irresistible tug. There it was, a strip mall adjacent with a music and arts store. Something matched up cosmically for a moment. A store and a man in a car, tuned to the same frequency for a heartbeat. I veered across 2 lanes of traffic towards the exit. I walked up to the counter, feeling like an alien, like I was too big to be in there, too old. I asked if they had a bass, and they had just one in the back. I was told that it would be quite expensive to rent as an adult, but the man working said he just entered me as a middle schooler, so I could afford it. But the bass didn't fit in my car. I folded down the back seats, stuck the neck through the gap between the driver's and passenger seats, but the bass still stuck out half a foot from the trunk, with no amount of finagling or jimmying able to press it any further. I didn't take it home. The drive back felt quieter, even though there was music playing. A couple of years later, I was in New Haven to see Desron's show. He was in a trio of rhythm, bass, drums, and piano. When I arrived, the empty stage was bathed in a multicolored glow. Desron came out, and the room quieted. They started to play, and the world became a haze of fervor and vibrations. Desron's hands swam across the surface of his bass. Every movement was precise. Every note was plucked with passion. I tapped my finger against my leg in time, and I felt the music flow through me. Nothing I had ever played had felt like that. I stayed after everyone had left and the trio began to pack. I sheepishly said hi to Desron. I hadn't seen him in years, and I was taller than him now. Yet I felt so small. He asked me if I was still playing bass. I said no, that I couldn't fit in my car, that it was too expensive. He looked at me for a moment, backlit by the red and green spotlights above the stage, and said, "That's not a good excuse." I knew he was right. I faded into the background of the conversation, which I don't think I've come into focus yet. I want someone to grab me by the neck and place me upright where I belong. But for now, I lay off stage in the darkened wings, whispering to myself, pianissimo, pick it up at the fundamentals. We can build the bass line from there. Thank you.